Weeds don't grow randomly. They reveal hidden soil problems you need to know. Most gardeners look at weeds and just see trouble. They choke crops, steal nutrients, and honestly, they multiply faster than you can pull them out. But here's something most people never realize. Weeds don't grow randomly. Their presence, or even their absence, can actually reveal what's happening beneath the surface of your soil. In fact, weeds are nature's soil indicators. Instead of ignoring them or fighting them blindly, you can learn to read them and uncover hidden problems that might otherwise go unnoticed. Once you understand this, weeds stop being just nuisances and start becoming powerful guides to healthier, more productive gardens. Weeds are nature's messengers. Every weed thrives in very specific conditions. They don't just appear out of nowhere, they emerge because your soil favors their growth. Nettles, for example, show up when nitrogen and phosphorus levels are too high. Horsetail prefers acidic, soggy ground. Plantain pops up on compacted soils, and cattails point to a high water table. Each weed you see in your garden is trying to tell you a story about what's happening underground. Instead of seeing weeds as enemies, think of them as early warning systems. They're clues that help you understand what your soil is struggling with so you can fix it before it affects your crops. It's common to assume that adding organic matter or fertilizers is always a good thing. But weeds often reveal when you've gone too far. Nettles are a perfect example. If they suddenly appear in your tomato bed or spread across a part of the garden where they weren't before, it's usually because nitrogen and phosphorus levels have gone out of balance. Instead of pulling them out without a thought, take their presence as advice. Cut back on high nitrogen amendments like manure or composted poultry litter. Balance your soil before it spirals into problems that affect your crops. Here's a simple way to dilute liquid fertilizers and, prevent nutrient overload. Mix 1 liter of liquid fertilizer with 10 liters of water before applying it to the soil. This ensures nutrients are available without overwhelming the plants or triggering weeds that really thrive on excesses. The silent warning of compacted soil is something many gardeners overlook. Some weeds thrive where other plants struggle because the ground is just too compacted. Plantain is one such weed. If you find it spreading across your garden beds or pathways, it's a sign the soil is tight and roots can't breathe properly. Compaction limits water infiltration, reduces oxygen, and makes it harder for crops to access nutrients. The solution isn't just pulling weeds, it's loosening the soil. Deep tilling isn't always the answer. Sometimes, light aeration with a garden fork, combined with adding organic matter, is enough to create a healthier structure. Over time, earthworms and beneficial microbes will return and the weeds will naturally decline. Weeds that signal too much water can be a real heads-up for gardeners. Some weeds appear when your soil is holding more water than it should. Cattails are a perfect example. If they show up, even if the surface looks dry, it means your soil has a high water table or poor drainage underneath. Planting crops in those spots will almost always lead to root rot, stunted growth, or failure. Instead of fighting cattails year after year, it's a good idea to improve drainage before planting in that area. Raised beds, French drains, or simply redirecting water flow can make a huge difference. Recognizing weeds as indicators saves you time, money, and frustration in the long run. When the absence of weeds isn't good news, it's easy to assume that a weed-free patch of soil is just perfect. But sometimes, honestly, the absence of weeds is actually a red flag. If even weeds can't survive, it could mean your soil is just too poor, compacted, or, lifeless to support any growth at all. Take clover as an example. Once seen as a weed, clover is now prized because it fixes nitrogen and improves soil. But if you spread clover seeds generously and, they fail to thrive, it usually means nitrogen levels are already too high. The soil doesn't need what clover offers, so it simply can't compete. This is where paying attention to what isn't growing can be just as important as noticing what is. When weeds can mislead you, it's important to remember that not every weed is a reliable soil indicator. Some are just so adaptable that honestly they can grow just about anywhere. Dandelions are the perfect example. While their deep taproots might hint at compaction, their seeds travel so far and wide that they can establish themselves almost anywhere, regardless of soil condition. The same goes for purslane and horsetail. Horsetail tends to favor wet, acidic soils, but its resilience means it can actually pop up in a variety of conditions. So in these cases, don't jump to conclusions. Use weeds as a first clue, then confirm with a soil test before making any big changes. One of the most fascinating things about weeds is, honestly, just how long their seeds can survive in the soil. This underground seed bank is kind of like nature's memory, storing seeds for decades, even centuries, until the right conditions trigger their germination. That's actually why you might suddenly see horsetail or nettles pop up after years of being totally absent. The soil changed, conditions became favorable again, and those old seeds finally woke up. Sometimes, weeds reflect past soil conditions, not really the present ones. Understanding the seed bank, well, it really helps you manage your expectations. You might fix drainage or balance nutrients, but you could still see weeds showing up for a while simply because those seeds were already waiting. Consistent care over time is what eventually shifts the balance in favor of your crops. So, how can you use weeds as a sort of soil barometer? Well, think of weeds the same way you think of yellowing leaves on a tomato plant. They're just indicators, not the final answers. They definitely don't replace proper soil testing, but they do give you fast, free, and super visible clues that help you act early. For example, if only dandelions seem to survive in one spot, that's a pretty good hint to check for compaction. If nettles suddenly show up in abundance, it's probably time to review your fertilizer use. And if cattails start to spread, it means your drainage needs a bit of improvement. Paying attention to these signals really does make you a more responsive gardener, able to prevent problems before they get worse. Let's look at a real garden example. Imagine you've been growing tomatoes in the same bed for years, and suddenly, nettles start popping up where you never saw them before. You might just want to yank them out and move on, but what they're really telling you is that your soil is overloaded with nitrogen and phosphorus, most likely from years of adding rich compost. By cutting back on organic amendments and giving the soil time to balance, you're not only reducing weed pressure, you're also creating better conditions for your tomatoes. In this way, weeds become teachers, showing you exactly where and how to adjust. Turning weeds into allies, the next time you bend down to pull a weed, pause for a moment. Ask yourself why it's there. Is the soil compacted? Is it too wet, too rich in nitrogen, or maybe is it just too poor to support anything at all? Weeds are messengers. By learning to listen, you start gardening with nature instead of against it. You'll save yourself endless frustration, improve your soil health, and unlock stronger harvests year after year. If this guide helped you see weeds in a new light, make sure to hit that subscribe button on Crop Corner and share this video with your fellow gardeners. Together, we can uncover the hidden secrets beneath our soil and grow healthier gardens, one weed at a time.